we're here to ease your mind.
Jim Joyce,
Hey.
can you believe it's September? Why are you cracking up?
Yeah, just
Already.
smile every time I get on the shot of digital health, right? Just infusing the positivity.
I know. I have to say August was tough. Like I was looking forward to the Wednesdays and then realizing Wednesday came and went, and but we're back, so and excited to get
Yep,
guests on.
absolutely.
Um and are laboring on Labor Day, for the shot of digital health therapy, or not
Yeah,
laboring.
right. Proper. We had John Brownlee in a little interaction with our friend.
That's right. That's right. This is crazy actually. We're connecting because you know what? Let our I'm gonna let our amazing guest in. So
Awesome.
as Jason joins us, so Jason Campana, and Jason, just hang tight as I tell all of our listeners and viewers before we get into your introduction. Why all roads in Minneapolis lead to John Brownlee. So I don't know if you know John Brownlee. If not, you should, because John Brownlee is actually responsible for you and I meeting. So let's backtrack. John Brownlee, kind of digital health person, introduced me ages ago to Kyle Rolfing, who introduced me to Jason Von Bank, who you were having breakfast with, and he called me up saying, "Yeah, I want you to meet Jason Campana," and I was kind of walking in already. So anyway, all roads lead to John
Minneapolis.
Brownlee at the end. So
who I have not met.
well, it sounds like we'll tag him in this podcast, and you should. But welcome to the Shot of Digital Health. I know we've been trying to get you on for a while, Jim,
Yeah, thanks for
Jason,
having me.
Jim.
Pleasure
It's
to
a
meet.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just for our millions of listeners and viewers, kind of take us through your story, history. We will rudely interrupt with some sensitive content. Just Jim noticed my T-shirt earlier. I didn't wear it on purpose, but please, off to you.
Yeah. So, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. I live in the Twin Cities area, Stillwater, Minnesota, and married. I have two kids, two boys, 12 and 15. So we're a busy sports family, and it's always sort of been that way. I wouldn't have it any other way. Absolutely love, being on the move and being busy and carting those boys around. It's great. I've been in health tech for 15 years now. Prior to that, I had started, entrepreneurial journey, like many do at a young age. I had a couple paper routes when I was growing up. I did a bunch of. I had a little bootleg CD. where I
Oh,
would,
look at that.
I would retell bootlegged
Pre-Napster, I assume.
Yeah, they were all Dave Matthews Band recordings, and
Excellent.
to people at school, but always just from a very young age, entrepreneurial age. I took that when I went to the college at University of Minnesota. Got into business. I was running a painting company.
Oh, wow.
Going through college. College Pro Painters was the name of that. It doesn't exist in the same way.
I was a college pro painter. I did that.
No, wait. Oh my God. Oh, that is awesome, Jim. Where were you?
In Boston. I remember it was a franchise that went around and said that wrote famously not knowing how to paint houses and being hired and figuring out all the way.
Did you guys have franchises in New Jersey also? Just because now that you mention it,
not big. Boston was a big market.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was gonna do that as a side gig, and now that you mentioned the name, I'm like, oh my God, and it brought memories. Or I ended up doing like cold calling, right? Because I'm kind of like, I'm not a physical labor kind of guy,
Right.
at least. So that's not as easy.
I mean, it's an unbelievable entrepreneurial training ground for
Right.
for young people. I mean, as a college student, I was running $150,000 to $200,000 business in the summer,
Oh,
employing 15 to 20 college students, and as you said, Jim, like we'd knock on doors, and it was like very apparent that like we never found a house, but we had to convince you that we were the right choice if you need your house painted, and we had
going for that extra coat, like we'll get the 3 coats.
and lots of upsell opportunity there. But I had an absolute blast doing that and learned some tough lessons at a young age, and I think the biggest one that sticks with me from that is just the responsibility that you have when you run a company. So like these other students had trusted me to provide them with their income. I was going to fund their school next year. So I took that very seriously and used it to drive a lot.
Nothing like cold sales, right? Just
Right.
and getting a lot of no's.
Just knocking on doors.
Yeah.
And having to quote for the project and figuring that piece of it out. It's pretty sophisticated for a young brain,
Wait, Jim, were you in the top of the ladder or
No, I was a middling. I was a middling. I got to like a
just making sure.
management like structure. So I badly ran a few house projects. I remember I went out on my own. I tried to mimic the College Pro model and set up my own painting business. I remember, and I painted like 3 houses or something.
Yeah, you're not alone. A lot of people I know have done that. So I did that. I ran a business for a couple of years, and then I went on to corporate there. Just loved it. So I was a general manager in Denver. Then I moved back and was the regional VP leading the U.S. Central Business Unit, where I was now responsible for hiring these kids and convincing them and their parents that they should, take a big risk in the summer.
Yeah.
And you may make nothing. You may make 50 grand. And, then train them the way that I was trained. And I love that. So a ton of repetition at a very young age in leadership and entrepreneurship. It's been definitely a big piece of what's shaped me into the leader that I am. And then I left there after my wife and I were ready to have kids. I was traveling a lot. We needed something else. And 2 of my buddies from College Pro had started a company called Fitness on Request, which eventually became Wellbeats. So they'd gone into, they had just completed a series. They had some funding, so I got involved. It wasn't in the very, very early days, but it was, when they actually declared we're a real company and we have, some money, we're going to try to build this thing. I was the first person that they hired. And
what does it mean? Declaring a real company? When did that flag get, or just say,
I don't know. It's sort of the commitment to say, okay, we're gonna make this a full-time.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
No, we're gonna stop doing other stuff. We're gonna commit to this. We've got investors now on the line, so it was, I think for them, an important moment in the story to start actually trying to build something special.
Yeah. And by the way, was Kyle an investor then? Is that how you met him, or he joined later when it became Wellbeats?
Later,
Wellbeats.
closer to the end, he was a board member.
Gotcha.
A really great board member. We had the original business with Wellbeats was focused on in facility solution. So the beachhead for us was a 24-hour gym, and that's really why the company was founded in the first place. So it was to solve the problem of you can have a gym that's open 24 hours a day. You've got a room dedicated for group fitness, and people want to use it when they're in there in the middle of the night. So, the original, one of the founders, he owned gyms himself and put in a DVD player and a big screen and was like, yeah, here's a rack of DVDs, fitness DVDs. You can pop one in and take it. And then, it wasn't long before he was for copyright trademark infringement for using this content that was not
So,
meant for.
so your bootleg CD thing came in handy.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so when he got shut down on that endeavor, he was like, okay, there's got to be a way. I'm not the only one with this problem. So they created a kiosk that would sit in the corner. They filmed some videos, and the company was born essentially. And for the first handful of years, all we focused on was gym installations. We became an early vendor of Anytime Fitness and sort of grew right along with them. We were getting installed in every club that they were opening all over the world, which was a thrilling stretch in our history. Then we moved into the military, started serving U.S. military bases with that same solution. Then we moved to apartment complexes that similarly had a yoga studio that they had installed, but no programming, and we were the programming. Then it was after, a few of those things, we realized, okay, it's very hard to build a business, achieve any sort of scale when you're charging, $200 a month.
Right.
So, we brought in a new CEO. At that time,
And it had hardware. Sorry to interrupt. Also hardware involved, right? Which is even more
huge component of the
challenging.
business
Yeah.
was hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a huge warehouse. We were manufacturing basically these computers built into a metal chassis kiosk.
Wow.
Yeah, very different business. But we brought in a new CEO, Jason Bank, who had experience in corporate wellness, and he's the one that kind of led the pivot into corporate wellness and taking all the content that we had built up over the years and that we were really proud of, and just basically created a new delivery mechanism, streaming through an app, and then we tooled up, brought in some really strong people from the industry that to lead sales, and then we were off and running. And we started to get corporate accounts, and we were starting to get really good traction right into the beginning of COVID, and then all of a sudden, everyone needed what we had.
Okay.
Yep.
We took off like a rocket. 2020, 2021 were just incredible growth for the company, and then we sold right at the perfect time in February of 2022 to LifeSpeak.
Okay. Fantastic. I love it.
I mean, I'm remembering, I think some of the on screen exercises saved many people's asses, right? Like including mine, just in general. And I think employers, right, they needed to give something to the employees kind of as a, for at home. So, and LifeSpeak, so I just saw actually Michael also did a big post today, Michael Held, just kind of on, as he steps back, I mean, obviously from a sale to LifeSpeak perspective, it's interesting. I don't know if you had the discussions of, why go public, because LifeSpeak was a publicly held company. And I think leveraging some of those public dollars where we went on a bit of an acquisition spree, right? I mean, Wellbeats was one of them, but I think there were more. So I'm curious, kind of you coming into the LifeSpeak umbrella, if you've had the discussions out and with Michael and why go public.
Mm-hmm.
Jim has some tire marks on his back for that too. So
yeah, we've had many good discussions about that. So, when kind of on a parallel track from like really along the same timeline to when we were building Wellbeats, he was building, a similar solution, but focused on mental health, and, was really a pioneer in that way. Obviously, mental health is now very mainstream. Digital solutions around mental health are definitely, table stakes at this point for any wellness program. Yep. There's a huge need out there, as we all know. And he was building that from scratch, originally like delivering presentations in grocery stores, himself to educate people on mental health in the workplace and why you should care about it. Then he converted that to a digital solution. They were building, a nice business, growing a recurring revenue base. And, it was scaling well. Decision to go public was really, I think, an opportunistic one. That was a time when the markets were frothy. You could get an oversized IPO. At that time, it raised a lot of capital, and, it was smart to look at that at the time to see what that might, what opportunities might come as a result of that. And they decided to pursue it. And it was really built on the thesis of, which is one of Michael, something he talks about a lot, and is something that I believe as well, is that you can't address someone's well-being if you only focus on one thing, because people are complex. Everything is interconnected. Certainly mental and physical health are interconnected, and, treating one doesn't really make you any more well.
Yep.
So his way of doing it was, we're not going to build these things all from scratch. We're going to buy, the companies that are kind of early pioneers in categories that we feel are important. And then we're going to assemble this best in class suite of solutions and build it eventually into a holistic solution. And that's really very much what the money was used for. It, raised a bunch of money. It fueled the early acquisitions of Torchlight, Alavita, Lift Session, which is another fitness solution. And then, eventually Wellbeats. And Wellbeats was really funded, differently. That one was more funded with debt.
Okay.
And tell us, so mental health, right? So LifeSpeak now, right? You have the mental health, which was kind of the core, what Michael was building, Wellbeats, but maybe tell Alavita and a few other assets, just kind of, and would love to hear what you're hearing from your employer clients, right? And
yeah, so we have what used to be 4 different point solutions in the market. So we have physical fitness, nutrition, which is Wellbeats and Lift Session combined. LifeSpeak's original product, obviously mental health, education, resiliency. Torchlight is caregiving. So it's child and elder care. And those of us, this is a really interesting space on caregiving. I'm currently a multi-chapter caregiver myself, having to now care for my parents as they age. And for those of us that share that experience, it's a really uncomfortable thing to navigate, especially when you're trying to raise your own family and manage, kind of the peak of your career.
Right.
So we provide resources for, both parents that are raising children with some sort of disability, and then aging parents. And then the last one is Alavita, which is substance use. And this is for early intervention substance use. It started originally as virtual rehab services. It was very, very clinical in its origin, but we've shifted that solution to be more early intervention, and it's focused for the populations that we serve that have individuals that are struggling to manage their relationships with substances, whether that's alcohol, drugs, gambling, you name it. When you've got a substance use issue, it throws everything off balance.
Sure.
So those are the solutions that we have, and what we have built over the last couple of years. We've been working hard to build a new platform that brings all of these solutions into one. And we maintain modularity with this solution, so that if you're somebody that only needs a fitness solution, we can deliver that solution, and it has all the features and functionality for really that Wellbeats and Lift Session had. So it is a best in class solution just for fitness, and that holds true for each of our other pillars. The main difference is it's all delivered in one platform. So if you want to offer a holistic solution, through one vendor, we can do that. If you want to survey your population and they tell you this year, it's clear that, we want to invest in substance use, and that changes next year, we can change with you and flex the offering to meet what the current needs are for your population. And that's a really powerful thing, because there's definitely point solution fatigue out there.
Sure.
That's very real. Employers are struggling to manage multiple vendors.
Sure.
Just all the overhead and administration that goes along with doing that. And then for the employee, so many barriers to them being well. Like if you're offering 8 to 10 different benefits, but they've got to navigate that themselves, and you have to try to communicate that, in a way that draws them, towards what the offering is. Nothing gets good utilization.
Right.
Well,
Bringing all those systems together, like it's a time, like what do you think, what's the sweet, obviously it sounds like you're doing it successfully. What's the trick?
Well, it took some re-architecting of the platform to bring them all together into one, but really at the core, all of the solutions do something very similar. We have expert-led content that we serve up on different topics that are important. We have ways that you can learn about those topics. We also have things that you can do to practice, whether that be a mindfulness practice or a fitness class, or some sort of a recipe that you go and make. So they have those core tenets. We have sequential learning paths that provide programs and a bit of a prescriptive solution for those that need a plan and want some guidance. And then we've built that all on a platform that has all of the security best practices so that we can compete for global business, and we can really lead in that way. We're multilingual.
You go outside the US.
Yep. Yeah, we are a Canadian company, so everything is fully French and English, and then
outside of North America.
several other languages as well through subtitling and voiceover. So there's a lot that we can do there, and we'll continue to expand on having a global offering, because that is something we hear from clients. And then the last piece, which I know we would probably get to later, is on the AI component. And that for us, it plays a key role, because we have the opportunity to really personalize somebody's experience based on the content and learning paths that they have available to them, to really give them something that is ahead of them and morphs with them and helps make the solution relevant and engaging for them over time. And it's very, very powerful. Everything we can do, it really starts very basic, right? With AI powered search. Then it moves into next best actions, and eventually into, fully dynamic, sequential learning paths built custom for the individual.
And how do you how do you, I sit here every day, I bother you, all the time, or he bothers me about this is what AI.
Mostly you bothering me, but anyway.
We'll do that. Yeah, I was going to give you credit for bothering me, but he never does. I come into holy shit, I got a new venture, and I'm just blown away by building a company now, from, incepting a company right now, and the skills and tools and capacities. It just you can't even keep up with it. It's like being on a ball, it's rolling. It's kind of going this way. But as a more established company with these different brands, how do you approach that newness being thrown at you all the time?
Yeah, we're fully embracing it, and that's actually where we're leading most in AI right now, is just internally to run our business more effectively. We are using all of the tools. We are encouraging experimentation. We're wanting our teams to see what's possible. We're investing in the right tooling to allow them to experiment, coming up with pilots that they can run, that quickly put something from idea into practice, which you can do, for almost free, and in a couple of hours that would have, previously taken months and months to do. So it's a fun time to be leading a business. And I imagine a fun time to be starting a new endeavor as well, just because there's so much available now. It's like a superpower.
I mean, those agents, right? I mean, we every team meeting, we're saying we're, as a core team, we're not planning to grow. Bring us the tools that you think you need to do your job quicker, better, faster, with quality, and we're sticking around no matter how much we grow. I mean, of course, our coaches will scale up and down, right? But that's from a core team perspective. And I'm just blown away. I mean, for the viewers, look at me with Zelensky taking hands, right? I mean, just, it's amazing, truly. But Um, maybe before we maybe double click in or not on the AI, actually, because Jim asked the question, how do you bring the platforms together? I actually want to back up because I've been part of acquisition on both sides of the equation. And I think especially as you sort of acquire younger companies that have their own branding and a little bit of like, we are, or we are, et cetera. So I'm actually curious because you were there, I think, as the last acquisition into LifeSpeak, right? But going through it, you're now the CEO, but just, you're now one LifeSpeak, but, any lessons learned for entrepreneurs that are thinking of going out there and acquiring a bunch of brands and businesses? Just,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this has been quite the learning experience. And I think if we could do it all over again, we'd move way faster on integrating. And I think LifeSpeak, when they were doing the acquisitions, they were more focused on the thesis they were trying to solve for, and building, focused on what the companies did in the market and how that fit with what they did. They weren't as focused on understanding like the technology behind the solutions.
Right.
yeah.
How was it built? And, was it built to scale? What do we have there? How would we integrate that?
Right.
That was really more of an afterthought. So when the companies all came together, which they came together very quickly, it was sort of okay, we've got now the pieces. What are we going to build with it? And that's a tough way to do it, because we then, and this was really my job as COO, which I was, for the last couple of years, was really to try to get us from 5 companies to 1 company.
Right.
And we did that in a pretty slow, methodical way.
Right.
I call it herding cats.
Yeah. We were
Band-Aid.
It's tough because you care about
Yeah,
of
of
people,
course.
right? And change is hard for people. So we very much wanted to bring people along in the process and, build a great company together, and, certainly a lot of unbelievable talent across the organization. But, in doing that, it really slowed down our progress.
Right.
And I think we lost a couple of years, honestly, of, we could have been out there growing, and instead we had this prolonged integration process. And, we're just now getting to a place that we could have been 6 months post-acquisition.
But having said that, right, to your point earlier, going public, getting at that height, right, being able to acquire all these businesses, and it's just an iterative process, right? So, from that perspective, it is what it is, right? You sort of accept and move on, and what's coming next. And the next is, so you took the CEO role, and you guys went private again. So congratulations. I think that probably was also part of the slowdown process. I mean, again, Jim knows it firsthand as well, taking his company public, the previous one. Where are you now? Well, taking it private, how was that journey?
It was a very interesting process to do, and we were trying to accomplish a number of things at one time. We had really, we had too much debt, really, from the Wellbeats acquisition. And it became too expensive to support the debt. We knew we needed to solve for that. We weren't getting any value from being a public company anymore. Like, it wasn't. We were on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and there's just not enough trading volume. There was very little interest, and we were spending a lot of money to, just manage the process of being a public company, and all that goes along with that, and the legal fees and the audit, and it's expensive and requires a lot of effort for 120-person company.
Right.
To be public. We're just not big enough to be public. So we wanted to, take it private so that we could, just have a little more flexibility and put some of that capital to better use in growing the company. And we saw an opportunity to do that. And then we wanted to give ourselves a little runway and, bring in a little cash to fuel, this next phase of growth for the company. So we had this criteria and we were very specific about the type of investor that we wanted, to join us in this journey. And it was difficult to find the right fit. We ended up, finding a good fit in some family offices really that, are coming in, family offices that are quite sophisticated, and have a lot of experience in private equity and really, act in many ways, like private equity, but they, they've been incredible, like hands-on. They understand what we're here for. They're super supportive. Speed is of the essence. They see the opportunity. They want us to capitalize on it. And, move, which is exactly what we need. We, been on the sidelines, I feel like, for the last
So you got to catch up those couple of years. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it feels good to be out there. The timing with the launch of our new product as well. So yeah, we're excited about it, and so far it's been great. Certainly, I think it was a good experience to be public as well and learn more about what that entails, but just more flexibility.
Sure.
Just a private company.
Well, when you take so much pressure, from being a public company perspective, you can probably, like, I can only imagine you just like take a deep breath and like a big rock falls off your shoulder and you feel like you can just, just defeat right away, right? Just by that alone. So I think that's a big portion. And what are you hearing? I mean, obviously you guys sell to employers and health plans, and I'm sure you have some government stuff going on in Canada and beyond. What are you seeing, hearing from your buyers? I mean, you kind of pointed out the point solution fatigue, hence, the kind of the original roll-up stuff. What are the kind of priorities? What are the things that you're hearing from your client base? Because you're not small. You have, I can say what at least publicly was listed 1,000+ employer clients, right? So at the time.
Yeah. I mean, we're hearing a few things pretty consistently. So in addition to the point solution fatigue, we're hearing certainly in corporate wellness for employer well-being. I think the pendulum, it started, where people were really concerned about outcomes right back in the days of the on-site risk assessments and the health screening and all that stuff. And then the pendulum through COVID swung all the way over to this digital health, where we just need to provide, solutions that people can consume in a flexible way.
Yeah.
Okay. It's swung all the way back now to, we still need the digital solution, but they need to deliver outcomes.
Right.
Yeah.
And real, like, tangible outcomes that help us improve our population health. And that's not going anywhere. That's going to be a trend that stays with us for a long time. So, how we think about that for our business is, we're not trying to be a full solution that provides all of the, everything you would need to address your full population health. But we do a really excellent job in our market leading in the preventative space. And that's sort of our lane where we can do really strong in, a direct employer sale if they have a need for that in their offering that they've pieced together themselves. We also fit super nicely with, a well-being platform provider. Many of the top ones are resellers of ours that, are offering a whole bunch of other great things across the continuum of care, and they're just using us for a preventative piece, and with partnerships. So that's kind of how we view that. But connecting together with other vendors, other partners in the space to provide comprehensive offerings, just has to be there. I think the days of just a standalone point solution that addresses, a very specific niche is, I think those days, they're not over yet. I think it's going to be harder and harder to compete and win.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I think the buyers are getting more sophisticated, day by day because of the growing cost, right? I just saw, another projection, another 9% healthcare costs going up 9%, or I think Business Group on Health published their report. But you mentioned the word prevention, and actually I just did like a LinkedIn post because, we responded to CMS comments for, physician fee schedule for next year. And in our case, for the first time ever, health coaching wasn't just like a little blurb for a pilot. It was embedded in the chronic disease management with lots of questions and lots of things in that physician fee schedule around prevention. So let's put kind of the criticism of the administration to the side. From a purely preventative perspective, we see it as a big tailwind because, I think all of us, the OGs in digital health, been talking about prevention. But, our gut feel here, and purely gut because, a lot of this is pretty binary. It's either going to happen or not. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on this, just more from, if you had a magic, like a lens in the next couple of years, prevention, we're saying it finally has a seat at the table, at the administration level, but
It sure feels like that. It's certainly more of a seat at the table than there ever has been before. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense.
Agreed.
Right now, that takes real effort and lobbying and everything to get. And there's a lot of people doing really great stuff to try to make moves there. There's no reason why preventative health should be treated any differently than traditional healthcare and sick care.
Right.
Everybody knows this. It's very common sense. Like, people understand that if we're going to, reduce the healthcare burden,
Right.
You have to catch things early. And if you deal in behavior change and you provide people with the tools and the resources and the education that they need early enough so they can have agency, you'll have different outcomes. We know what the path looks like if we don't do those things, and nobody likes the outcome of that. It's expensive. It's, people are dying unnecessarily. They're sick. They're having to live, a huge chunk of their life with different ailments, and it's completely preventable.
Yeah.
So, I think those of us in the industry that care about this, I think we have to continue
keep pushing it.
And I know there's been a lot of people out there doing great work, as I mentioned, but we've got to all band together and be very vocal about this and try to get, legislation changed so that you can get reimbursement for different things. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to
Get it.
use your FSA dollars for.
And
Exactly.
you saw, when you were looking at the fee schedules, were you seeing the actual reimbursements at a decent rate?
No, so at least for health coaching, again, it's, God knows, 1,200 pages long, PFS or something like that. But, so we zoom in to what's more relevant today. There is no fee schedule. We were not being able to kind of navigate the pilots in Medicare. So that's where they were starting with health coaching. But going forward, there was literally a whole paragraph like, do you think motivational interviewing should be extracted as a code? Do you think these T codes should be moved to G code? Do you think, we responded 3-page response to CMS, but as many others. Again, this is the deepest that we've seen on as it relates to it. So let's see where it kind of goes, right? I think the comments are due by the end of September, and then
I used to always say when people were doing, early stage med tech, health tech, whatever style companies, or in general, it's always, find out what people are buying and make yourself look like that. It's always my philosophy. So like if the money's not flowing towards it, then, where are the budgets? What's going on? And you have to look like the budgets, because it's just too much of a task for novelty solutions and tools to create the budgeting system at the same time they're creating the novelty tools. So it feels like with you bringing all these things together, Jason, they're not novel anymore, right? All those items are, the end. There's a movement towards it, but hopefully the money follows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure will. So what's obviously kind of one LifeSpeak, but um, what's next for the team? Kind of where are you guys heading?
Well,
To the extent, because you're not publicly traded anymore, so But
yeah. I mean, we've just done a full repositioning of our go-to-market strategy, just really trying to be thoughtful and pointed at the opportunities that we're pursuing. It was a good time to do that with the refresh of and launch of the new product. And we support 3 channels that are all a bit different and unique, but all very, very important. So there's the direct employer client, which for them, we can package specific population solutions that will deliver a specific need. So an example is if we're going to pursue a union market, and you could pick any of them at any market, we could, and this is one that we are already working on, but we can do some research to understand, talk to folks that are serving these populations, find out what the pain points are, what are they really struggling with their populations and what would move the needle. And then we can curate the right package, leveraging the expert-led content and the sequential learning paths that we have, the different features that are available through our platform to deliver them a solution that is going to effectively move the needle that they're trying to move. And that's kind of the strategy on the direct side, just very specific, very focused on markets where we believe we can make an impact. On the reseller side, we have a lot of really great reseller partners, and for them, it's continuing. If they want to sell us as a point solution, they can continue to do that. But we also want to go a bit deeper and have a similar conversation with them as we're having on the direct side. So, what's your go-to-market strategy? What are the types of clients that you're trying to win, and what are the needs of those populations? Yep. And we'll do the same thing and build a custom solution for you to take to market, and have a differentiated offering that you can bring to your clients. And then the last one is partnerships. We're looking for partners that are, focused on completely different parts of that continuum of care, where we can plug in, and we can help round out their offering, be part of their go-to-market strategy. And then it's also working with other partners that make us better as well. That, so like Eugene and I have been talking for a long time about bringing in health coaching, which is something that we will be doing, as part of our roadmap. And as we will look at different things like that, because we know that a human in the loop, when you're dealing with challenges in your life, are really, really helpful to drive behavior change. And that's not something that we're going to spin up and scale internally ourselves when there's great partners already doing, awesome work in that space. So we're looking at partners with a very broad lens that can strengthen our offering and also where we can strengthen theirs. So that's awesome. Kind of the marching orders. Getting this go-to-market out there, starting to get out, be visible in the industry, start to really build awareness about what we're doing and why it matters, and get back to growth.
Well, we're happy. I think we're the first podcast show
to
have you on as the CEO. Okay, all right, excellent. That's good. That's good. That's good for where I'm happy. Always like the first, but so with that, I think I want to turn it over to Jim for his kind of famous last question.
Let's hear it, Jim.
Yeah. So I guess Jason, we're going to go into the future in order to look back, and you get through some kind of agentic agent, you get a notification somehow into your platform that you've been invited to keynote the CEO's Preventative Wellness Conference. And the reason you've been invited is because you've managed to bring together this wide range of disparate preventative health solutions that's just giving real-time outcomes to employers, and you published the data. You've got human in the loop with health coaching. Everyone's just like, how did you build this system? And so you're excited about giving the talk, and you go back to, you were go for it, right? University of Minnesota. You go back to University of Minnesota, and you're there, and you're talking, and then and you're being interviewed, and people asking about your backgrounds, and you give this great talk, and people are just excited about the future. But as you're coming off stage, this handsome young man that is in the background, and he's got and you look over at him, he's just staring at you, and he's got paint on his arms, and he it just dropped off his kids at a sporting event, and he's kind of clawing his way through the crowd to talk to you, and he kind of comes running in, and he says, "Jason, you don't understand." He's like, I've been painting houses for the last couple of years. I've studied, I have a young family, but I've completely switched gears. I completely switched gears, and now I am going and I'm launching, a broad-based preventative health technology solution. And you look at that young version of yourself as he starts on his journey. What's the one piece of advice you would give him?
It's a big wind up on that one. I like it. I think just be patient with it. I think there's when something fits.
Yep.
And I think this is both for starting a company and also just for building a career and growing as a leader. All of that, it's the same thing. Like, patience is something that goes a long way, and you can control only what you can control. Right. And if you focus on controlling those things, you'll end up, eventually blowing away your expectation. But if you focus on the stuff you can't control and you get impatient about it, and you try to jam a product into market, or you try to force your way into, a role that you're not ready for, it ends up sending you back, not moving you forward.
Yeah. Patience.
Amazing.
Love it.
Be patient.
Jason, thank you for joining us. And for all listeners and viewers, see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.